Korea's consumer sentiment rose for the second consecutive month in January, driven by moderating inflation, a recovery in exports, and hopes for an end to the U.S. Federal Reserve's rate hikes.
1월 소비자 심리지수가 지난달에 이어 2달 연속 상승했습니다. 이는 물가 상승률 둔화와 수출 개선, 미 연준의 금리 인상 종료 기대감 등이 영향을 준 것으로 보입니다. Tell us more, Ray.
Well, the composite consumer sentiment index, and we say sentiment. Sentiment means your feeling, your idea about something. So this is consumers' ideas. It's their opinions. So this index stood at 101.6 in January. That's an increase from 99.7 in December. This was according to a survey conducted by the Bank of Korea. Now, what do these numbers mean? Well, it's 101.6 in January. So any reading above 100 means that optimists outnumber pessimists. So more people think that the economy will do better than do worse. Now, this figure marks the highest since August of last year when it was 103.3. So people aren't quite as optimistic. There's not as many optimists out there as last summer, but better than it has been.
Yeah, absolutely. 자, 그러니까 긍정적으로 바라보는 사람들이 부정적으로 바라보는 사람보다 많다. Optimists outnumber Pessimists라고 얘기를 했습니다. 소비자 심리지수에 관한 설명을 해주신 거고요. 100이 넘었을 때는 optimists가 많은 거고 100 이하일 때는 pessimist가 많은 거죠.
When I think of optimists and pessimists, there's that expression: is a glass half full, or is a glass half empty?
Exactly.
Right? Pessimists say, the glass is half empty, where optimists say, my glass is half full.
그렇죠. Which side are you normally?
I try to be an optimist.
Yeah.
Yeah, try to be.
Me too. 그래요. 그래서 물이 반이나 남았네? 반밖에 안 남았네? 이거를 영어로 the glass is half full or it's half empty 이렇게 표현을 할 수 있습니다.
Depends on your perspective, how you want to look at things.
Okay, the first expression to look at here was that this was driven by something.
Right, so when we use this phrase, when something drives something, it's the main factor or main factors that cause something to happen. And we'll see that similar in the third headline as well. We can see the word drive there as well. So it's the same meaning. I always think of it as like the engine that powers something.
Yeah. Driven by. A is driven by B라고 하면은요. A에 힘입어서 B라는 일이 생겼다. A is driven by B, sorry. B에 힘입어서 A가 생겨났다. 이런 의미가 되겠는데요. 여기서 말하는 거는 the consumer sentiment rose because of, or it was driven by these factors. 이러이러한 요인으로 인해서 소비자 심리 지수가 올랐다.
Makes sense though, right? You hear that inflation is moderating, it's lowering, you can see prices aren't climbing as much as they used to.
Sure.
You hear about exports, or perhaps you even work, maybe you work in the automotive industry or you work in the semiconductor sector, and you can see that exports are starting to pick up.
Yep.
We're hearing things that the Fed might start slowing down their rate hikes or stop with rate hikes, so everyone's starting to feel a little bit better.
Absolutely. Talking about the Fed, there are hopes that the Fed will stop raising its interest rates.
Yeah, when you have hopes for something, it's something you want. Like, I have hopes for seeing Pooh Bao. If my wife will go with me. I might just go by myself even, unless you want to come with me, Sue. You're welcome to.
갈까요?
Right. And sometimes we'll talk about there's a phrase to have high hopes for something. You really want something to happen.
That's right. Have hopes for something or have high hopes. 무엇에 대한 기대가 있는 거죠. 그래서 on the back of hopes for the Fed, 미국의 연방준비위원회, 그러니까 중앙은행을 줄여서 우리가 연준하듯이 영어로도 이제 공식 명칭은 the Federal Reserve지만 줄여서 그냥 Fed라고 합니다. 그 Fed가 금리 인상을 멈출 것이다라는 기대감. High hopes for the Fed to stop raising its interest rates. 그런 것들이 이제 또 하나의 driving factor가 됐다. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Korea's consumer sentiment rose for the second consecutive month in January, driven by moderating inflation, a recovery in exports, and hopes for an end to the US Federal Reserve's rate hikes. Let's move on to the second headline.